Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group. Once again, this is a weekly occasion. This is Wednesday, July 1st, 2020, and it's a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department, part of the Public Teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and as usual in these Keshe Plasma Reactor Group meetings, I'll be the host today, and I usually begin by asking if people have things they'd like to present or questions that have come up that they would like to pursue and penetrate into in some depth. So that's what I will do as per usual here. Has anyone of our panelists in the Zoom group have anything in particular they would like to show today? Let's see, I think we have some leftover videos from, is it Gianni had some videos, I think. Have a look. Actually, I can't locate them right now, I don't think. Oh, there.
And Gianni's also been doing some painting, as he's spoken of earlier, in dentist's office and potential police station.
Yes, I think that's right, some painting. I'm not sure if we've seen these videos before or not, but I'll, for the last 3 that he sent me, I'll bring them up and we'll have a look anyways here. Okay, well, I can do it this different way, so just a second here. Like this. Okay, share that. Now we may have seen these, I'm not clear on that yet, so if so, it's okay to repeat a good thing. Audio. That way. that one. I think this is the next one. You can't see a whole lot in that one, but we can hear that now familiar sound of the squish, 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 squish of the gun. And we can see more of that. Yeah, we hear it again. I think that's it.
I've got an idea for you all. Whoever has to move around in his car, he can install 5 or 6 of these sprayers on the front of the car with a 10-liter bottle and spray along the way he goes in his car.
How would you actuate them? How would you get it to spray?
With a small water pump,
Yes, right.
motorhome water pump or something.
Or you
12
could
volt.
use, yes, they have, well, even the sprayer for your windshield, right? You could,
Yeah, 5 or 6.
for example, some of them are adjustable. You could actually put cans in your system, Gans water, and turn the sprayer parts for your windshield sideways instead of onto the windshield, and spray to each side of the car with your own pump system built into the car even. But it could possibly gum up the system a bit. I don't know how the Gans water will do in that system.
Well, but you got the sure flow pumps for motorhomes. Those are fantastic pumps, and they don't clog up at all.
No, you could pump 20 gallons of Gans water out with one of those pretty quick in a spray system. Yeah, you could have it built in to spray your tires as you drive around, for example, and that would lay a track down of the Gans water or even Gans.
And if you put some Gans water inside your tires, that also helps your riding.
Yeah, that's what Gianni did apparently.
Hi Rick, hi everyone.
Hi Gianni.
Estamos alquilando el coche que se llama Lady y por esto queremos hablar un poquito más adelante.
He has rented his car, he calls Lady, and he wants to talk about it later on.
Es el mismo coche con que hemos ido a Francia.
It's the same car he went over to France, to Provence with.
Y ahora estamos haciéndoles las papeles y después cuando terminamos podemos hablar. Gracias.
Right now he's doing the paperwork for it, and later on we can talk about it.
Okay. And is there any more that I can show with Gianni's videos here, or is that it for this segment?
¿Tienes más videos, Gianni?
Sí, tengo otros 3. Y por eso he dicho le voy a presentar un poquito más adelante.
Yes, he's got another 3 videos, but we'll show it later on.
Okay, I'll let him do that then.
He must be busy right now.
Okay, that sounds good.
He must be
Hi.
preparing his breakfast with all the food he recuperated from the market last night.
Could be. He's very resourceful, that's for sure.
Hey, Rick, it's Brandon.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi. I thought, if people want, I shared a video in our Telegram group showing the Gans hot tub that I made.
Yes, can you show that? Do you want to show that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I thought, maybe since this is a public forum, it could kind of open it up for more people to see it if that
Absolutely,
sounds
it's perfect. Yep.
okay. So I don't know how to share a video.
Oh, are you on a phone?
Yes, but I do have a share button.
Okay, I think you have to, maybe someone can help me with this because I'm not clear, but I believe you have to bring the video up first, have it ready to go, and then hit the share button.
Okay, I can do that. So, and pause it. Okay. All right, so I don't know whether or not the sound is going to come through. So if it doesn't, that's okay. I can just talk over it.
When you press the share button, there's a small button on your left down below. It says share audio.
Okay. Okay.
John?
So let's see.
I think it's an optimized button for audio and video.
Oh, okay.
Just check those little boxes.
Screen. Okay. Annotation. No, that's not it. Can you guys see my screen?
We're seeing the screen, but we see the picture of the reactor group.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing the buttons you guys are talking about.
You have to stop sharing because you're just sharing the screen itself. Now you have to reshare somehow.
Okay.
So try going to share and then see if it gives you the option to share your file or share your video.
Okay.
Have your video ready, the full version, open the screen.
Okay.
Press the button, the green button, and before pressing on the video, the image you want to show, press the audio button down below on the left.
Okay, I don't seem to have the same setup on my phone as you do, John.
No, I don't use a phone. No, I'm talking about computers. Yeah.
Oh,
okay. So let's try this. I'm gonna just go to share my screen, and we'll see if it lets me play the video. So here's the video. Oh yeah. So there might not be any. You guys hear sound?
Not hearing sound, no. We do see the video. It's quite small, but we can see it.
Okay. So here, maybe if I turn this way.
That's way better. Yes, that's full
Okay,
screen
good.
almost.
So right there, well, I'll start all over. So here, the wood pieces are, this is a little kind of confusing to look at. So what happened is the first night that I soaked in the tub, it had a little leak at the part of the tub that is the overflow. So I have since fixed that. The wood is sitting on top of a piece of the edges, both the top edge and a piece of plexiglass that I put along the top so I could have a very deep bath. So I don't know if you can see that yet, but there's the plexiglass. That right there, I'm showing the hole that it was leaking, the water was leaking out of. And I did end up repairing that just by siliconing a little dish stopper there. And so the Gans, I put a bit of cup 2 in, obviously. And it is mostly cup 1, but the cup 2 is really red. And so I'll wait till it comes around. You see that blue tube there at the bottom of the tub? I'll pause it when it gets back over there again. So there are 2 little blue things to the right of the play button there. And the one on the bottom is the water, where the water goes out. And the one on the top is where the water comes back in. And it comes back in like boiling hot, very, very hot. I found that because I use the wood covers, it really only takes the water about 1 hour to get quite hot in this unit. And so that's why the water goes out. And this is where the water comes back in. And so I'll wait for it to move forward. So those 2 blue lines there, the bottom one's the water out, see? And then the top one is the water back in the tub. That's the B-bomb. And so yeah, the water down at the bottom, it doesn't have to be any particular, like that water at the bottom can go up and then down, but the top one, once it comes out of the top of this coil, it's got to go up until it gets to the tub, because you're basically dealing with like boiling water and steam. So that's the coil. It goes, the water is heated up in there and it goes around and out of the top tube. So it goes around and around, and then it's boiling as it gets higher up and comes out of the tube there and on back around up to the tub. I have that little piece of wood there to make sure that I don't have any dips in the blue line, or it'll cause some problems as far as like steam buildup. And so that red cylinder, that concrete looking cylinder that's around the tube, I made that with a concrete mortar. And that right there, I made it with a concrete mortar. And inside of the concrete mortar, I put like a good bit of Gans in the mortar when I mix the mortar. A lot of cup 1 and quite a lot of cup 2. And the idea was to create a cylinder of the stronger plasma energy, because the stronger feeds the weaker. So I thought, okay, well, if I have a bit of Gans water, plasma water, some with Gans in it flowing through the tubes, if I have a lot of Gans on the inside of the outer cylinder, then it should, you know, theoretically feed energy into the copper tube, into the water in the tube. Okay. And I also built this outer cylinder because I really wanted a situation where I didn't have to use a whole lot of wood. I do live in something of a neighborhood. I mean, we don't have any covenants or anything like that. No one could really complain about my smoke, but I just wanted it to be pleasant for my neighbors too. So I made this cylinder also to where, like you can see at the bottom, you can see light coming in the bottom. And that's basically, I'm using, letting the air breathe in through the bottom so that it will mostly burn its own smoke and not create a situation where there's a lot of smoke billowing around. So that's the idea of the cylinder, and you might see that it's sitting on rocks there as well. I'll just let this play for a minute. So yeah, that whole red, go ahead.
Brandon,
Yes.
you can also use compressed sawdust, and that doesn't smoke and it burns very slowly and doesn't it'll heat your water, but it won't, maybe won't reach a boiling point.
Oh, interesting. Well, one thing I found is that there's just a ton, people throw away wood here all the time. I mean, I could show you guys the land that I, manage. The trust that I work for owns this deed to this land. And I have tons of charcoal on the land. So, I mean, people just give me wood. I've just made contact with the tree companies in town, and they dump their wood off at the place that I have. And so I have like lots of free wood. I appreciate the idea, but I do have a ton of resource as far as just wood waste goes. So, but how would you compress it? Would you steam it and then press it with like weights on top of a form?
I remember I used to work in a depot, and they had a sort of 8 or 12-inch pipe, about 2 feet tall, standing up, and they put the sawdust inside, put just a bit of gas oil into it, compress it, and light it, and that would slowly consume itself, and that would give out a lot of heat.
Oh, nice. I love that idea. Yeah, I'll have to try that because I'm sure you're telling me this because there's a load of sawdust coming my way. Yeah, one of the other things I have like infinite access to is this fine powder of pecan shells. And I bet that we could do the same thing with pecan shells.
Yeah, it's all wood.
Yeah, great. Thank you, John. So yeah, that's where the air comes in the bottom between these rocks. And it kind of breathes up and just keeps the smoke down. And I'm able to put, there's a lid on the top part of the screen. It's probably going to show sometime in a moment.
You must have seen in some places you've got those charcoal mines in Europe that have been burning for hundreds of years because they got the charcoal got ignited, and it consumes itself slowly, and it's been eating the charcoal for hundreds of years.
I have seen that. They call them like the gates to hell or something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which if modern society is calling them gates to hell, they may be a good thing. With how backwards this world tends to be.
Just control the amount of oxygen that goes into it.
Right, exactly. So I do make loads of charcoal in a sort of similar way by controlling the airflow. I have a device. It's like an upside down pyramid, and I make about 3/4 of a yard to a full, what they call a yard, which is a meter cube, and I can make that in about 4 hours. So I have a lot of charcoal. I do a lot of farming, experimenting and stuff. So yeah, I love charcoal. I think it's a huge unused resource. So
Also, you said you had pecan dust, basically, or ground up pecan shells. Is that what you're saying?
I have access to loads of that stuff. Yeah.
Loads of it. Well, I bet you that would work well as a fuel for a Tesla turbine. Something to think about if you're into that kind of project for a generator, for example.
Right.
Because they're able to do experiments in California with a Tesla turbine about a decade or two ago, not that long ago, in relative terms. And they used, I think it was like either oats, ground up oats, or straw. I think it was something like that. Basically, the dust or the ground up parts of grains can be used, or anything that is a dried biomass plant material. And they were doing tests on the Tesla turbine to see if it would clog up with carbon, as most engines would if they should try to burn that kind of material. And that's why it just doesn't work with an ordinary combustion type engine. but with the Tesla turbine, it's a different system, and they were able to get the turbine to run efficiently on biomass of various kinds, and it actually was a viable way. There was no carbon buildup, and it had very little emissions or smoke out of the exhaust because of its technology. Actually tends to reburn the carbon particles before they get emitted. And
Right.
it's quite interesting that way.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think of it as a plasmatic generator. Basically, you've got the spiral inside of the Tesla turbine that Mr. Keshe likes to draw so much on his whiteboard, and that spiral is the way the particles move inside the Tesla turbine or the Tesla pump. It's always in a spiral over a long distance, basically. So it's something to think about when you mention that. That's what brought to mind as a fuel. One of the types of fuels they use for a Tesla turbine is it can run on any fuel. It can run on diesel, gasoline, compressed air, steam, and all kinds of, basically any fuel with very little modifications to it.
I see. I've done a little bit of research on that in the past, but I thought it was over my head. But I'll take another look, because you know another thing that I have a lot of access to. Sorry, I'll turn that back. Is the hemp, what they call the hemp herd, or the hemp. There's another word they use for it. It's HURD, herd, or shiv, they call it. SHIV is what they call it in England. And it's like a quirky biomass. And so I screen it out, and I get a lot of fine particulates. But it's fascinating. Hemp is very, you know, I've often, Rick, thought of you guys in Canada because you just have tons of it up there because of hemp being legal to grow. And but it's a really fascinating plant because it's a silica-based and a carbon-based plant. So I've made quite a lot of charcoal out of it and actually eaten the charcoal. And it really, you know, eating a food grade silica really seems to do something amazing in the body. And I've also noticed that when I grind it up and put water in it, this graphite stuff kind of floats to the top. So there's a lot of people doing these
Well,
graphene.
that's exactly what I was going to mention. If you look up the science experiments, actually the hemp fiber has some of the best characteristics for making graphene, and it's used in scientific experiments in order to make certain kinds of carbon and graphene
Oh, see,
variables. It's a nanomaterial essentially.
Right. I've read some of those studies, and I believe, you know, not to, you know, you might have read something too that said the fibers, but I believe they were using the hemp herd for that because of it contains the higher amount of silica. It's the part of the plant that's on the inside of the fiber that like regulates the body temperature and the water flow in the hemp plant. So it's like a bark, like a corky bark. And I know that before they discovered that form of making graphene, it was like $20,000 a gram to make it, and then you know using that particular hemp part to make the graphene, I think it ended up being like $5,000 for a ton of it to produce. It was like nothing compared to what it used to be. So it's definitely a resource.
In England, it's used for bricks, I think, or for making walls. It's very good for isolating homes.
Right,
and
and that's
also the Hindus
Insulating.
used to use it a lot for the textile fibers.
That's right. So I use it for the building material. That's why I have it, is for building my hemp walls and things with it. Walls and insulation. It's combustion proof, and as close as you can get to fireproof. And it's just lime and hemp, and sometimes I'll use a clay to accelerate the curing process. But it's actually a carbon negative building means of building. And who knows, if we're not all living in spaceships, I might be traveling around, building people homes.
Do it without clay in the mix. I see.
Yeah, without clay or with clay. I tend to use clay because I found a Canadian clay that was very inexpensive and has a very good energy. And I forget the name of the company, but it just makes the process go faster. Like if you don't use pozzolan or an accelerant, then you kind of have to wait and really baby the stuff for about a month. You have to make sure it stays really at the right moisture, and it doesn't freeze and it doesn't overheat. And it really cuts that time down of having to babysit it if you use the pozzolan. Porver, Poraver, is the company out of Canada, and the kind of clay is called metakaolin, METAKAOLIN, and it's actually a byproduct of, they make glass spheres for aerated concrete, and so that's actually a byproduct of their industry, and it's quite cheap. I think it ended up being about 30 cents a pound delivered, so it really wasn't very costly. So yeah, I love Hempcrete, and now I'm getting ready to start mixing again this year, and I'll be, of course, mixing all of my walls with Gans, actual Gans, and doing the whole thing with plasma water instead of regular water. So I'll be putting the water in a tank and harvesting the Gans water out of the tank, and then mixing actual Gans in to my walls. So I'll be showing you guys that pretty soon.
Right on. Yeah. I think that was
that right there. I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that was used in the oasis concept previously of what's his name?
Gianni.
No, on
Tom Salas.
yes, thank you. Skipped my mind. Tom Salas's hurricane video that he showed. I think his mother's home that he constructed had Gans in the walls and had similar construction as what you're speaking of.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know Gianni said that he was working on using hemp but not using lime, because lime essentially, they say it's green, but it's really, it involves an industrial process to get it down to a powder. So it definitely has a carbon footprint. So I'm very interested in seeing what Gianni does with his hemp in the future. So that round item on the top left part of the screen is like a cover that I put over the fire pit that also reduces the amount of updraft in the fire, and again cuts down on the smoke and adds to the efficiency, because then not all the heat escapes out of the top and it's allowed to kind of billow around on the inside. And most of the people I've seen who do this kind of thing online, it takes 2 to 3 hours to heat up the tub. But I start a really nice mellow fire. I use maybe, 3 pieces of wood that would be about 12-inch in diameter, kind of cut up, and it's much quicker by creating this concrete cylinder and running the tube up the cylinder and putting a lid on it with a draft coming in through the bottom. It's very quick. I mean, the pool is very tolerable after under an hour of heating it up. And I don't do like a huge fire. I just build a nice small fire. So that's that. Oh yeah, so I guess I do show how I do that. I just put that on top, and then the fire breathes out and kind of heats up that tube a little extra on its way out. And
I think
after
Gianni
that,
wants to add something also there.
okay.
He's got his hand lift up. Gianni, ¿quieres agregar algo?
Sí, sí, John. Y quiero mostrar en vivo cómo hacemos con el coche, cómo lo estamos plasmatizando. Y si estás de acuerdo, voy a abrir la cámara para que se vea en vivo cómo hacemos.
Ah, espera que termine Brandon con su bañadera caliente.
Ok, si es posible, si se puede hacer después que tenemos que ir.
Ah,
Gracias.
fenómeno. As soon as Brandon finishes this, he'd like to show us what he does with his car because he's got to leave in a while.
Well, I can go ahead and stop the presentation now, or I can wrap it up within 5 minutes.
What do you want to do, Rick?
What is 5 minutes going to be okay?
¿Podés esperar 5 minutos, Gianni?
Sí, sí. Gracias.
Yes, he can wait for 5 minutes, no problem.
Let's go for it.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing Gianni's presentation. So, see how long this has. So it has about 2 minutes left. So yeah, that's the Gans in the bottom there. I'm kind of stirring it up. And the one other thing that I would show you guys is just that plexiglass. Let's see if, no, that's, so the plexiglass there, that plastic on the outside, I did that so that I could actually fill the tub all the way up and have a really nice deep tub and get a full body soak with no problem. And I just used a marine silicone sealant that's meant to be underwater. And, you know, I would just say at this point, that's all. Let's see if I have photos. Don't know why that's, so here's maybe just a small video. That's actually a large fire going there, and that's it running. And you can see there's like there's bubbles, like bubbles, and you can see the hot water coming out of the top. It's quite quick. This is when it just had I don't think it had any Gans in it yet. So yeah, and that's that. So yeah, thanks everyone. I just thought I'd show you guys, and it was pretty easy. The tub cost me $10 at a thrift store. It was about it was less than $100 worth of copper, and the tubing and the fittings and the silicone, it all ended up being probably about $150 worth of material. Maybe a little bit more because of the plexiglass. I bought the strong stuff that's it's a polycarbonate that is like UV proof, and it'll last a long time outside. It's very, very strong. So that's it. Thanks everyone. Rick, unsaved.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very
Beautiful
much.
work,
That's nice to see. Yeah, good choice with the polycarbonate. The acrylic might tend to crack in that situation. So,
Well, I will say one other note that I was feeling these, as much as I would do the Gans protocol, I still had these aches and pains in my femurs and in my feet. And I couldn't seem to really get rid of them. So the first night I soaked in the tub, I got rid of probably 80% of the femur and the bone, but I didn't have anything on my head. And I got a terrible earache, even though I'm very careful with getting water in my ears. So it was like it was a COVID earache. And so Now the second night when I'm in the tub, my head is wrapped in a cloth that's dipped in the Gans water. So I'm making sure that I treat the head simultaneously. And the pain is really reducing in the body, and my energy is starting to come back, my clarity, my creative capacity, and all that seems to be coming back very quickly. So thanks, everyone.
Well, that's good news. I did kind of wonder about the Gans. It's quite red, and it's I don't know. It's pretty ominous looking in a way. But on the other hand, you need to go to extreme measures when you're in your situation where you've dealt with the coronavirus and the various symptoms and still dealing with it. And so you need something more extreme, and that's the way I feel too. I have some extreme baths as well with Gans water and sometimes Gans. So we do what we have to do, and if it works, that's the bottom line. So good for you, Brandon. Very nice.
Thanks, Rick, and I do agree. It's kind of desperate measures for desperate times. It looked ominous to me too, but I got right in, and much better for it.
In the old days of tree planting, reforestation that is, we used to have a tub down by the river. Just set up a tub, put a fire directly underneath this cast iron tub, and people would have baths in it. But you'd have a piece of wood to sit on, a piece of slatted wood, or else you would have a hot butt. And you'd have smoke and fire and the steam and everything all around, and in this pristine environment, tree planting beside a river out in the bush. It was beautiful. Okay, Gianni, we should let you go through here, and maybe we can hear more from Brandon later, or we can connect that way at some point. Go ahead, Gianni.
Gianni, ¿quieres lanzar lo tuyo?
Sí, ok. Vamos a empezar. Voy a abrir la cámara.
Yes, he'll start. He'll open his camera.
You cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
Co-host.
You should be good there now.
It's okay. Okay, Jetta.
We see you. Beautiful.
Hello, Jetta.
Hi. Hemos alquilado el coche, ya los papeles están hechos y ahora vamos a empezar a pulverizar y preparar el medio en el coche para que podamos ir de viaje todo el equipo.
We have rented this car. We've done all the paperwork, and now we're preparing all the energy part of the field on the car.
En los botes tenemos el Gans de una copa una vida y el agua.
In these bottles, we've got some cup one Gans.
Estamos empezando lo primero por dentro, todo. John, ¿se ve bien?
Sí, un poco oscuro, pero se ve bien. They're spraying all the inside of the car with the cup one Gans.
El pecho también. Es un coche de 7 sitios.
It's a 7-seater car.
Porque somos 7 en el equipo.
We're 7 of us in the group.
Sí. Por dentro ya está, ahora vamos a hacerlo por afuera.
The inside's been done, and now we're going to do it from outside.
Sí, correcto, ¿eh? Ujú. Dăm că aici ajung eu mai înalt.
There's a question, what kind of Gans water are they using?
¿Qué tipo de agua de Gans? ¿La copa 1?
Sí, es agua de encima del gas de copa 1.
Yeah,
Desde aquí.
they're using the cup 1 Gans water.
Con esto siempre lo hacemos con todos los coches y claro, con todo lo que hacemos. Es el protocolo.
It's our protocol. We do this with all the cars we use and whatever we are making at
Y
home.
aquí enfrente está la escuela, donde hemos pulverizado por fuera.
Here's the school which we sprayed from the outside.
Y aquí es el centro de salud donde tenemos el laboratorio.
And this is a health center where we have a dental lab.
Quería compartir con vosotros todos.
I wanted to share with all of you
Para que se vea en vivo cómo lo hacemos.
so you could see in a live way the way we do all this job.
Y ahora tenemos que ir para recoger la otra parte del equipo.
Now we got to go and pick up the rest of the group.
Nico, Flavio, Adora, Lavinia.
Nico, Dora, Lavinia, and Flavio.
Lo primero que hacemos, estamos preparando el medio.
El medio.
Sí, el medio del coche.
Ah, yeah. Right now we've finished preparing the mobile so we can go and pick up the people.
Y una vez que está preparado, vamos a recoger a los otros y ir donde tenemos que ir.
We'll go and pick the rest of the group and we'll go wherever we have to go.
Gracias por esta oportunidad de compartir con vosotros todo. Gracias.
Thank you for being able to share with you all what we do.
Gracias. Gracias. Hasta luego.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Gianni, and have a great trip.
Ciao.
In the rope, what it's made? Also cap one? În cauciucuri.
No, în cauciucuri avem CH3.
John, you can translate. It's made putting CH3 in the gum.
Dan, în Lady, acum este doar așa cu ocupă o viață, atât.
It's only one cup on life for now in this car, lady. But I asking, it's made putting something in the clear and say CH3.
Sí, pero
Sí, has puesto en tus cubiertas CH3.
no, John, en nuestro coche está preparado de otra manera porque es nuestro coche.
Yeah, in our car, in the Jeep we used before, we used to do it, but in another way. This car we haven't put any CH3.
Eso es un coche que lo hemos alquilado y por eso tenemos respeto para todo el mundo.
This car we have rented, so we respect the car company.
Y por eso estamos utilizando, como está puesto en el protocolo, solo el agua, el plasma de una copa, una vida.
So we're only using 1 cup, 1 life Gans water.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Gianni? Very good. Thank you for the update, Gianni. Always good to see what you're doing. Okay. Does anyone else have something they would like to present? I don't hear your audio.
Yeah,
John.
I just opened my mic. Here's my mate, our green tea with Gans water.
Okay, just a sec. Let me get you spotlighted and put in so we can see you here. And I have to stop my sharing and get your screen.
Here we got a yerba
There you
mate, a green tea with Gans water.
So you boil the Gans water and you have hot water and then you put it on top of the tea?
Yeah, but we don't get the water to the boiling point, to about 85 degrees, just below the tea heat process.
Right.
In normal tea, you put it up to about 90, 92 degrees. This tea, we take it up to about 85.
Mm-hmm.
We just
So
pour some.
You just pour it through? You don't steep the leaves in it?
No,
like
no,
you
you got the leaves in this
right?
gourd or
Mhm.
this vial.
Mm-hmm.
We got this tube. We just suck the liquid from down below.
Okay, is the gourd full to the top with leaves, or is it only
Yes,
in
exactly.
the
Yeah.
top? Oh, there's no screen in there or anything. I see. Just pour
No,
it through.
you got a very small screen on the bottom of the tube,
Okay.
so you won't suck any leaves up.
Right. And that's what keeps you going, I understand.
Yep. It's a very good. It feeds you. It's got caffeine, theine, and matane. It's very powerful, and it keeps you going without having to feed yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Very nourishing. and it's only grown in this zone. You can't grow this plant elsewhere.
And it doesn't have that kind of speedy buzz of coffee or cocaine or whatever.
No,
It's got a more mellow nourishment to it, or
yes, it's very
keeps
smooth
it
going. Yeah.
right. See?
In fact, we drink it this way. We share the gourd with the bombilla, we call it. And the Arabs, what they share is a kettle, a hot water kettle, and each one of them has a gourd. That's what the way they drink it in Arabia. They
so everybody
import a
brings
lot of it.
everybody brings their own gourd in a way, and has
Exactly.
a own cup.
And in this zone, we all share the gourd. Everybody
Bombilla.
finds it very funny. How come all the people suck from the same bombilla? But it's very nice way of sharing something between the people. This is...
¿Puedo decir algo?
Sí, adelante, Gianni.
Aprendí a tomar hierba mate.
Sí, con Úrsula.
Sí, de Gianni de Úrsula.
Yeah, he learned how to drink mate with Úrsula there in Provence.
Y lo tenemos aquí y claro, lo estamos preparando con agua de una copa una vida.
And we are also preparing it with 1 cup, 1 life water.
Y gracias.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Ursula here, and I'm hearing with very pleasure all this information because I have always 3 kilos from your mate, from the Cuatro Caminos, John. So, because I gave it to my son, but he don't drink so much, so we are happy to find it again. It's
Good.
one of the healthiest herbs to take, with a lot of properties, and it's very healthy, and that's why Argentines are almost in good health, even if they eat so much meat.
Good to hear from you, Ursula. You've disappeared from the teachings lately. You're in the background.
I'm not disappearing. You know, I'm now in a camping and have not very much connection. So yeah. I do what I can, what I have.
Good.
But my son buys a piece of land close to here. It's very beautiful. It's a national park in Les Cévennes. And I'm very happy because it's 4,500 square meters. And we will make a real oasis from the beginning, with all what we have learned from the beginning, and also with the plants and fruits, and total autonomy with water, and puits, how I call it, un pozo, with electrical owners, also solar, and all the what we learned to heat and to cooling the house. But it will not be a house, it's only a caravan, and then a yurt. Well, it's total freedom and autonomy. I'm very happy to start again with a new project.
That's great, Ursula. Good to hear.
I'm very happy, and I has been in contact with Tom Salas also, so it's starting again. I hope, and I think that Gianni will come also again. So, and then it's my house, my property. I mean, my son's one. He will construct then, he is a carpenter, his own house in 3 years when he finished his study. And it's beautiful. You have the river, we have the beautiful trees all around. So it's a very beautiful place. So I'm very happy. Thank you.
Sorry, that's in France or?
Yes, it's in
Mhm.
France. In France, it's a
Okay.
national park in the center south, 100
Good.
kilometers from the sea. Very beautiful place. There are not very much people here. It's one of the poorest place of France. No big cities. The biggest one is Nîmes, but it's 1 hour from here. And it's really big trees. And here in this village has been 11,000 inhabitants, and now only 3. This was a mine station with carbon, with mines, but there are not more any of this. So it was abandoned here. We are only 3,000 now, and many young people, and many of also from the years 68. Peace and love. But now they're elderly, so they're always living here, but with good mentality. And also young people without money, because they can make their gardens and many organic places and wood, and it's very beautiful, really. I'm very happy here to start something again, because as you know, in France, things in the whole world, things are going really wrong, but we know that everything will change, and all those who are studying, all those who are good mentality, and of course studying also the plasma science, when they arrive to catch it, because it's not so easy to make it happen in the mind of others. But the best way is to showing them how you become and what you are doing. It's our children's. When a parent say, do this, do that, they never will do, or mostly not. But when you show them how you do in this way, they will. That's it. I mean, it's simple. And be in peace yourself, with yourself and with the others. This is the most important. And show what you do. Well, I am naturopath, so all the health teaching, I will start again with the yurt. I have 4 trampolines, and of course also the plasma and the water cleaning for me is very important, even if here is not so dirty as in the city, but it's another vibration also. So as Gianni said, um, painting with plasma water and all this kind of I do everything with plasma water. I wash myself, I clean my house, I clean whatever. We drink only this. I feed my plants with this. I make everything what I learned from 5 or 6 years. So it works. It works. It works. It's very happy moment. Thank you.
Well, Vajra says in the comments, I want to go there.
Yes, but you're right.
So,
Because the difference with the Oasis Provence, where I was paying 1,200 euros, so my intent was that we were 4 knowledge seekers supporting this together and working together, yes. And the most beautiful moment when Gianni was here with Jetta and all the Romania staff and 10 Spaniards to start the Oasis. What appears in the Plasma Times, July 19. But now I don't need to get paid for supporting this. Now I'm on my own. Well, it's the land of my son, because his father died last year and he got an inheritance. So it's better to have it in the land instead in the bank. So he buy this piece of land. Beautiful. He fell. He's carpenter. He was in Switzerland. He fell down, and he was in convalescence in the Oasis. And then all begins, the information with the COVID and this, and that's why we he told me about this place because he heard about this. So we were here, and it's really beautiful. So now we are on our own, don't need to pay nothing, even no electricity, no water, nothing. Maybe the tax for for the land, I don't know, but he's very cheap, so not problem. And you're all welcome. Welcome, because I will have yurt. You know what is the yurta? It's what the
Yurt, yeah,
yurt, yes.
round structure, like
Exactly. So it's very good, very warm. So, and to work together, and so I can show you what we will do there. So I make a practice in Oasis Provence. So now I'm ready to.
now you're doing the real thing. Yes, indeed.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
going to be perfect. Good for you. Good.
Yeah. I
You've
hope to
gone
see
from
Rick also
you've
someday.
gone from a good situation to a better one. So that's a good way to move through life.
Exactly, and in also personally, so it's very beautiful to to inform you of this and to say I'm very happy to start again, stronger and much more beautiful as first. And I know Gianni will come, and maybe others will come also. So you are all welcome.
It would be
you.
great
And
to come and visit. I look forward to come and visit.
And how can someone get a hold of you if they're interested in going there to help out or to be part of that community?
Well, I have
So it
my
sounds like
my Facebook page.
Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, Ursula Colombier, and it's not now because I prefer to hide a little bit from this information now, because it's better to live a little bit hidden of this. But
Telegram?
yeah, Telegram, or I am open, so don't worry. You will know about it. We'll make many pictures also, but I have been lived from up during the oasis and after, also with my perception and all what happens there. So you will know about me. Don't worry.
Ursula.
Yeah, because sorry.
Ursula.
Yes.
Remember the save I had in the center of my land here near home?
Yeah. Yeah.
That came down with a storm yesterday.
Wow.
That very big tree. It was over about 60 feet tall, and it came down with a big storm we had.
My God. Yes. Many things are happening. Many.
Yep.
Yes. And Cataratas is now with water or without water?
I don't know. About a month ago, it was practically empty. We had no water at all. The
Yes.
Iguazu falls were empty.
1 kilometer 700 waterfall, one of the biggest in the world. So incredible what happens now. Nature is really climbing for support, and we are here and happy to support the beautiful nature around us and our beautiful planet. So it's beautiful to be a part of it, to enhance all this.
The
And
Mukona waterfall also was pretty empty.
wow. Well,
That's nearby the Iguazu Falls.
will come again. Everything will come again. Much more beautiful than before. I think we will pass 1 year a little bit terrible, and with much people suffering, because I see here many are afraid, and you cannot come into a shop without your mask, and everything looked at you as you are, the danger. So, but they are in fear. They live in fear. So this is the problem. Yes, but they need to understand that there's another way of living, and well, we can show with our example. So it's all right.
See what happens tomorrow with the news, if it comes
Yes,
along.
every day something new. And tonight we have the Spanish. Yes.
Yeah.
Many things to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Ursula.
You're welcome.
I have a question for John. John, where in Argentina are you more exactly? Because I have two friends who are in the north, and they are.
Well, I'm in the north here in Misiones, near the Iguazu Falls, in the same province.
Misiones.
Misiones is northeast.
Okay.
Just between Paraguay and Brazil, the southern part of Brazil.
Would you like to have two very nice visitors coming in their own van from Spain?
Sure.
Because I can suggest them at least.
I'm in Obera, O-B-E-R-A, Obera.
Can you write that
right
on the screen?
Pardon?
Can you write it in the chat?
Yes, sure. And
Well,
I've
why
got a
don't you guys,
broadcasting station here.
you guys can make connections privately, probably.
Yeah,
be
exactly.
best. Yep. But yeah, you can use the private chat there.
Who is this chatting?
Badra.
Yeah, fine.
All right, we've got a couple of outstanding questions here. We have a question from Peck NUBR from YouTube chat. Something about my father, his mind's affected and movements are limited. Treatment GANS, question mark? Well, it's pretty hard to recommend a medical intervention in the case of knowing that someone's mind's affected and their movements are limited, and that's all the symptoms that we know about. But to me, the drinking of the Gans water is always indicated when there's a problem, because it's basically an all-purpose solution to balancing the fields of the body. And when there's an imbalance, apply the Gans water. That's what I figure. It's good for whether you have a tummy ache, or whether you've got a mood imbalance, or whether you've got aches and pains, arthritis, high blood pressure, diabetes, you name it. All of those symptoms have been addressed by people using Gans water, and you can have a look at the testimonials, and the Keshe Foundation testimonials, and there's a long list of health testimonials that people have talked about various ailments that have been addressed by using the Gans water in particular. So that can be generally looked at that way. If you want to get more serious about it and actually have the Keshe doctors have a look at it and so on, you can send an email to info@keshe.foundation, and that'll get through to those who need to know. If you're serious and you want to actually be taken on as a patient or something like that. Otherwise, there's plenty of information on the internet in general. And also, there's the movie that was put out, let me see, maybe 3 or 4 months ago with the Keshe Foundation. Maybe it's a little more than that now. 8 or 9 months ago. Last fall, I think it was, with the showing the effects of the technology of the plasma body enhancement unit, and the same technology was used to reverse the effects on the Chinese gentleman that was showed in the video. He came into the hospital not being able to walk and ended up jogging around the track and giving his caretakers a good run for the money. And again, another one, I'm on an urgency. My pet, 12-year-old, is having renal failure. All I have in hand is the CO2 liquid plasma Keshe pen. I made a patch with the CO2 liquid plasma and put it on the kidney of my dog. Well, you do what you can with what you have at hand, and possibly Gans water washing or misting or even bathing might be good as well. Probably Caroline Keshe might have more to say about that. If you can contact her, she would be a good one. They go on to say the patch is on him for 6 hours. Is this protocol 2? Protocol, okay. Well, it sounds appropriate. I don't know for sure. Generally speaking, the protocol for animals can be similar to the one for humans as shown on the KF Wikipedia, with the appropriate amounts that would be for a smaller body. Let me see, there's another. Does anyone else have any feedback on that question? Just please go ahead and say something about it now. I'll put a comment in. Mark says, Gans takes from the body what it doesn't need, gives to the body what it does need as a general rule. That's a good balancer. Caesar says, I've tried to contact them for over 5 days. Dr. Rodrigo read my something email or something, but doesn't reply. Yes, that's typical, and they don't work on an emergency basis, generally speaking. If you have a COVID problem, you can join the COVID group and get some care that way. Otherwise, they don't generally take new patients for one thing, and if you're a patient, then you need to have the full medical background and the full medical records and everything else, and generally they take human patients rather than animals, but however, all you can do is try to make contact through the various ways, especially with the info at Keshe.Foundation, and see what happens. Also, you can try through the Golden Age of Gans Facebook group is a good way to just put it out there. There's literally thousands of people in that group that are willing to, many of them willing to respond, especially if they have personal experience with that situation, which many of them do with dealing with their animals. So that would be another possibility to get more of an instant feedback, let's say. Brandon says he might have some advice for the renal failure person. It's actually on their dog, not them, but yeah, if you want to go ahead, Brandon, what do you got?
Yeah, I've dealt with this in quite a few animals, and my cat had it when I found this cat on his deathbed, and he's doing great now. And it's really renal failure in animals usually has something to do with kibble, you know, them eating hard food, and because it's very dehydrating to them, and it's also processed at high heats. So my cat just loves the Gans water. That's all he really drinks. He's got a choice of rainwater and Gans water, and he normally will drink the Gans water inside. And so I give him cup one water, just the water, of course, no Gans particulates in it, and then moved him to like a raw food diet. And there's just no sign of renal failure anymore. So it's normally kibble related when it comes to animals. So that's all.
Rick, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Oh, I was mumbling to myself a bit there because I was looking for a link, but yes, thank you. There's Caesar who in the YouTube was looking for the Telegram link to join. So I could suggest the Keshe English discussion group perhaps would be appropriate to bring up the cat issue. So I can put that link in. And can anyone suggest another place that might be good? That might be good for bringing up those kinds of issues. And Caesar asks, your cat drinks the CO2 liquid plasma?
Well, the plasma water, he was drinking the CO2 before I started making the cup one, the cup of life. And once I started making the cup of life, my whole family just transitioned right over to the cup of life water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So there was another question here. Let's try to find it. Oh, Sarah had asked earlier in the Zoom chat, is it just the Gans water or are there Gans in the spray bottle as well? Would anybody like to answer that, or what is typical?
I try to add a little bit of Gans to the spray bottles. I always do if the spray bottle is going to be sitting around for more than a half of a day. If it's something I'm going to spray right away, I might not use Gans in it. But also, if you know, whenever I can, if I'm sort of gifting the water to the environment of the city or town or whatever, I try and add a little bit of Gans. That way, the fields stay there fairly permanently.
I'd say that's very good advice. Yep. I always put some Gans in the bottom of my spray containers. And what I do is I usually, with the little tube that goes down inside the container of the sprayer, I cut that tube off maybe an inch or so off the bottom of the container so that it draws the water and not the Gans off the bottom. And if you really want the Gans off the bottom, you just shake the container a bit, and you've got the, you know, come through the sprayer that way. Okay. Yeah, so the idea there, as Brandon was saying, you keep some of the Gans on the bottom of the container, and that keeps the water activated or charged, you might say. Thomas says, my process is to put Gans in a small jar and then insert that into a large 1 gallon bottle. That separates the Gans from the drinking water. Then we only use the plasma water. Okay, I think that's similar to what John does. So that would be an open-mouthed jar that's without the lid, I think. That's correct. And that way the Gans tends to stay in that jar, but it's still exposed to the water that's in the container, and the larger container will still be. He says, no, the little jar has a lid. Well, that's not plasma water the way I understand it. That's not the way John does it either. He does it with open jars, except for one that he has with the CUO Gans, I think it is, John, that you have a lid on that one. Yeah, otherwise you're not making plasma water. You can say you're charging the water or something, but it's not at all for viral condition, and it doesn't work for that at all. That is a technique that some people have used to, I think Alex Skoric uses that to charge, not charge isn't the correct word, to change the field strength of the drinking water in a sealed water container, let's say. You put them around in a certain geometric formation around a central Gans container, and after a certain period of time it becomes activated, and you can use that water for various other purposes. But Mr. Keshe has been pretty clear that you have to actually mix the Gans with the water, allow it to settle, and that becomes your Gans water, or plasma water, as it's known as. Any other comments or questions on that? And if anyone ever has any corrections to what I have to say, then please go ahead and we can always do with that. Okay,
I think if you had a high quality thermal imager, as Emmanuel had showed us, you can see plainly the difference between the copied water, which will probably show some light, but then the water with GANs in it will be a much, much brighter light.
good point. Makes sense. Sarah says, has anyone used the 1 Cup 1 Life suit or have any feedback regarding it? I just received mine yesterday. I think someone else did too. I don't know if it was Alaska Susan or somebody else had received the Gans suit. And I think Nikolai says it seems the suits have just arrived in North America in the past few days. And he mentions apply cup 1 and 2 Gans waters as required. Let's have a quick look at the suits since that topic came up. Go to the KF store. Oops. Okay, here's the Keshe Foundation store. And as we scroll down, see a bunch of new products. And here's the, oops, that's the whole package. You want just the, there it is. Keshe Gans 1 Cup 1 Life suit. Through years of research and months of perfecting the innovation in the Keshe Gans development, we now introduce to you the latest Keshe Gans products. Easy to use and highly effective, our new Keshe Gans plasma products bring back the balance to your body, emotions, and soul, creating an environment for you to enjoy, reducing stress and relieving your pain. So this, it mentions this is specifically designed for emergency and or prevention scenario. So basically, if you think you're getting the coronavirus or need to, or have the coronavirus or some other viral condition or something that could be treated with this situation, you better look there. Comes with gloves and I think boots as well. There are sizes. Not intended to be shared with another person, it mentions, and basically with this promotional price of €69.99 plus shipping and taxes. Comes in various sizes, so you can select up to extra large. Okay, and there was another suit as well, but this is different. The Keshe Gans wellness suit. It comes with pockets that you can put Gans into, and for treating different parts of the body and so on. Nice patch. Here's one of the Gans packets that can go inside the pockets. Kind of sporty looking. So they're starting to arrive, and we'll be getting reports on their use in the next little while, I guess. Good stuff. I like the silver suit. I want one. It's almost worth getting sick just to be able to wear one. Not quite, but almost. Okay, any other comments or questions? Here's a picture in the Keshe Corona group. And since it's a public group, I think I can show the picture. And just a second here, I'll sort out and give it to me. Here's the picture of Barbara's, has received her suit. I think she's in Canada, I believe so. And she showed a picture of it, and even a picture of her in it. So I'll show that too, since she's brave enough to show herself. And she says, fits perfect. So that's great. Okay.
Rick, on that patch it says KFM. What does the M stand for?
It's backwards, first of all, because it's just reversed in her camera or whatever. But yes, KFM, it's Keshe Foundation Manufacturing. It's a manufacturing arm of the Keshe Foundation that is involved with making of the space suits and the various other products. Right on. Okay. Okay, what else do we have for show and tell here today? Anybody inspired to show something else?
Hello, good morning. Rick, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hi,
Angelica.
Yes, right, Angelica from Germany. Because of the wetsuit, plasma suit, I could try to show you a little movie I made last night because I tried it on the first time. But I'm not sure if I'm good enough in the technology here, if it's working, but I can give it a go if you like.
I don't think any of us are good enough with this technology because it's archaic and it's caveman technology we're dealing with basically. But yes, go ahead, try it.
Okay, I'll open up the video and now I share this screen sharing thing, right?
Technically, that's the way it should go. I don't find it so easy myself, but yes.
Okay.
We'll try to guide you through. If it's, are you on a phone or on your computer?
Okay, just video clip, clip, computer filing. Okay.
I'll stop.
Can you see something?
Yes, we see somebody in a suit.
Yep, that's me. And I start this now. Hi there. This is Angelica from Germany, and I'm wearing my wetsuit or Gans suit now the first time I try it on because it's quite cold outside. Last days we had 30 degrees and I didn't want to try it on in this heat, but now it's quite cold and I thought I'd give it a go. So it was quite hard work because I'm by myself, and when you do this, it's nice to have somebody who gives you a hand. And now this is how it looks like. Yeah, so I opened it up and sprayed it inside, made it all wet. Cup the Gans water of cup number 1 on the top and down the cup number 2. It was quite hard actually to get it wet because it's repelling. It's not really soaking it, but maybe it's because it's the first time. We'll see. I do have a little lake now here on my carpet. Anyway, so yeah, made it all wet and then sipped it together down on the legs, and just let it open here on the arm, shoulder, and it goes here around the head. So I had this open so I could slip in from the top and sipped it up then again. So yeah, to be honest, it doesn't feel so comfortable. It's of course because it's wet. It's sticking. It's sticking to the skin. Well, it's supposed to do that, but at least it's warm. That's good. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I will tell you later, after maybe 1 or 2 hours. I'm trying to leave it on like for 3 hours. I'm supposed to spray every half an hour. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you know and share it with you. Yep. Alrighty then. See you then. Bye. Hi there. Did it work? Did you hear anything? Oh.
Oh yes, it was beautiful. Just beautiful.
Yeah. Oops.
You can just leave it there for a second. It's fine. Or do you have another video to play? That's a good
Um,
to discuss.
no. To be honest, after 1.5 hours, I put it off because I couldn't stand it. The feeling on my skin, this sticky, wet. I think I really prefer the bath tube, and yes, that's my experience. I mean, it's yeah, it keeps you warm, but I didn't feel it very comfortable for myself. I couldn't stand it really good. So this is all I can say from my experience so far.
Okay. What is the inside like? Is it, what kind of material? Is it soft or is it
yes, it is soft.
plasticky?
Maybe Well, I went in there, I sprayed myself, and I just was wearing like just a slipper underwear, and that's it, because the moisture is supposed to stay on your skin. So I didn't put clothes in there, but maybe this somebody could try to wear clothes which you have soaked in the plasma water, and then put this on, because it does keep you warm. That's good. But
maybe some long underwear, like some long cotton underwear, might work.
yeah,
or wool.
and yes, because of the size, maybe if you would take a bigger one, okay, it wouldn't maybe stick so so on yourself, but on the other side, it's supposed to be to touch your skin, to get in contact with the water. So yeah, it would be interesting to hear what other people experience, but for me, it was just, I don't feel comfortable at all with that. So I think I'm not gonna use this, and I would like to have one of these bath tubes Brandon was showing. But yeah, here in Germany, we can't, we are not allowed to have an open campfire outside. So this is not working outside. So I have to use further on my tube here at home. And it's a small tube, so I can't stretch my legs. So it's not so comfortable as well. And I have to cover my knees, so they are soaked, they are wet all the time as well. But it's more comfortable for me being in the water than wearing the suit, to be honest. So it's just my experience, and yeah.
I wonder if you could wear it while being in the water in a way, and allow the water inside of the suit at the same time, like they do with a wetsuit. In other words, you could have those kids pools, you know, the plastic pool, small pool. You could maybe lie in that in your backyard if you wanted to, with hot water provided from inside the house or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of variables, but thank you for the feedback.
Yes, you're welcome. I just closed this now here. Stop.
Sure.
Sharing screen. Okay. Thank you.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I like the idea of keeping warm with it. If I feel ill, I like to sort of burn out with a fever to whatever bug happens to be in there. I like to be able to keep warm, and the thought of having a suit like that, maybe with long underwear on underneath, to put the Gans on to allow that to be wet, but yet keep you warm at the same time, with like a more or less like a space blanket around you. And that sounds like a good deal on a cold winter's night, for example. It might be a very nice way to keep warm and burn the bug out, so to speak.
Maybe a silk lining would be nice. That would be nice and smooth and so.
Silk.
Silk lining, yeah.
Yeah. Or a natural cotton, I find works good too.
That's very nice too, yeah. But like an inner suit inside the suit. Very thin,
right. Okay.
lining.
You could wear your silk pajamas then.
That's right, yeah. If you're one of those who choose that, yeah.
Okay, what else do we have in our lineup here?
Hi, Rick. This is Boris.
Oh.
Hello. I have quite a topic that is can follow this path of one cup on life, but it's a more technical question. I wonder if any one of you tried to use the setup of one cup on life. Mr. Keshe told us it's a Margraph, and I just wondered how to use it in a technical way. Do you have any idea how to use it in a circuit, as we use the Margraphs, the stacker units in our diagrams? Does anybody know how to use it?
I think Mr. Keshe made a diagram of that recently.
Really? Great. I didn't realize that.
Because of the newer orientation of the cups being above one another, the cup of the soul above the cup of the physicality, and that generates if you look at the figure 8 interaction between those two, for example, that is commonly shown as interactions between two of these entities, that being the magnetic and gravitational fields entering and exiting and so on. So you have this figure 8 configuration going on, and that's similar to the Maggrav units, where you have the 3 coils above each other and coils within coils, of course, and the fields generated are sort of a similar what do you call it, like a vortex sort of toroidal field. So I think he was comparing the two that way, and I can't remember much more about that. If anybody else can remind me any details, I believe that was in the last few teachings. Or maybe it's a figment of my imagination.
Could you restate that, Rick? The question?
It was about, well, if Boris can ask the question, might be better, but you were saying, Boris, what is the relationship between the Maggrav and the one cup one life, in terms of how do we turn the one cup one life into a Maggrav configuration? Is that what you're saying? You'll have to unmute in order for us to hear Boris. Hello, Boris, can you unmute perhaps? And well, that's not happening. So can anybody else remind us exactly what the question was, or?
Yeah, sorry, I got a phone call.
Oh, okay.
Our discussion, this is why I dropped off. My question is, I just wonder how I can use, for example, plasma capacitors with this setup. You know, how to combine this.
Sorry, I lost you a bit there. How to use plasma capacitors?
Yeah, for example, you know, we use plasma capacitors in the stacker units in handshake principle, and I just wondered how to connect this to a setup like the one cup one life. So,
okay,
in a real technical way. But I think I will follow the circuitry Mr. Keshe showed us for the Chinese community. I think the battery, how he connected the batteries, there is a kind of hint and could be a way to go. And I will look what happens then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Definitely, we have a gradient between the two cups in
Yeah,
that situation.
yeah. This is what I
So
also see.
there's something that can be taken advantage of there. And of course, with a capacitor, it tends to, its feature is to charge up rapidly. So perhaps rigging up a capacitor between the two. I actually had a plan that I want to take a crystal radio circuit and actually immerse it in the cups and see what happens.
That's an interesting idea, really.
Yeah, and try
Yeah,
to listen in on what the cup hears in terms of the electromagnetic spectrum. And also do the same thing. I mean, that's in a saltwater environment. That's going to basically short circuit all the circuitry of the crystal radio in theory. But on the other hand, it still has its basic field set it's working with, and it may still provide a signal. And on the other hand, you can have the Gans water, the purified Gans water or washed Gans water, as we call it, and using distilled water and immerse a crystal radio circuit into that distilled water, and it would have insulating qualities to the water. Therefore, it would not short circuit the crystal radio circuit, and it should be able to pick up on the water itself as an antenna and medium in which to transmit and receive fields in. So, yeah, it's just an idea that occurred about a week ago or so to me, and I thought that could be a great experiment to try. So I'll try to get on that and see if I can get my crystal radio circuit that's plugged into the computer to make some sounds out of a Gans water situation. Seems pretty strange. It's right up my alley.
what is interesting for me is, Rick, we had nearly the same idea at nearly the same time on totally different places on this earth, but I think it's kind of a really interesting thought and an interesting path to go. And honestly, I really thought about leaving the salt water away at all at the moment, because I just thought salt is more or less to create field strength of inertia needed to create materials, ganses. But what about just using the fields? What is a very rich and powerful way to use the magma already. So maybe don't have any troubles with salt water. As you said, it's not isolating, you shortcut everything. But I really thought about using no water at all with this setup. What do you think?
Just having the plates and then putting a detector or crystal radio circuit in with them, you mean, without any water?
Possibly. What do you think? Because
yeah, that's a possibility, and it ends up with the crystal radio circuit is what is the antenna? What is it you're trying to pick up and translate into something that's an audio signal that actually has some coherence and some sort of relevance to it, some sort of meaning to it. So, for example, salt water is actually a very good conductor. And because it's a conductor, it acts as an antenna. And in fact, I've read that the military has experimented, and I think they actually have right now, an antenna that is basically a pump that pumps the salt water in the ocean in their naval ships, and pumps it off the side of the boat out into the ocean again. And that water that gets pumped out, that stream of water that comes off the side of the ship, acts as an antenna. And all they have to do is stick a wire onto the pipe that's squirting the water off to the side. And depending on the length of that water that's squirted out into the ocean, that becomes the antenna. And they can actually, it's a very effective way to form an antenna away from the side of the boat, so it's more effective and so on. So that's kind of interesting. So any body of water, including the human body, and the human body especially, because it absorbs the radiation from all various frequencies, especially radio frequencies, quite well. And we act as both a receiver and transmitter, basically a transceiver of radio signals. As anyone who's touched an AM radio antenna, and you can increase the volume or even tune it a little bit by just touching the antenna, and you suddenly hear the volume gets louder on a weak channel, for example, on AM radio. And that indicates, well, our body becomes an antenna in that case. Or if you wanted to transmit something and you were to touch the antenna, it would transmit through you, essentially better than through the antenna. There's this saying that if you want to measure the radiation in a room, don't try to measure the room or the air, just measure the humans.
Right, that's true. And we have already a lot of salt water in us, don't we?
That's right. Yeah. And in the case of 5G, there's an actual scientific paper that I've shown before that says the conclusion of the scientific paper is that it's very difficult to measure the 5G strength of the signal, because the humans that are trying to measure the signal absorb the signal and change the readings of the detector that they're trying to detect the signal with. So the results of this experiment was that the best way, the conclusion of this scientific paper was, they said the best way to measure the 5G frequencies, since they're so difficult to measure, is not to measure the frequencies directly, but simply measure the humans, because the humans, the skin of the humans heats up due to the 5G signal. And so the best way to measure the intensity of the 5G signal is to measure the forehead temperature of the humans in the field of the 5G. And I read that in this scientific paper. And I went, what? You're kidding. That's what they're doing to everybody with the coronavirus, is measuring the forehead temperature. I'm thinking that's how they measure the intensity of the 5G fields. Well, that's a strange correlation.
Do you have any idea in what range the temperature changes?
It's not very much. It's not like many degrees or anything. It's in like tenths or hundredths of a degree or something like that. But it's enough that they can tell the difference when a human walks through a field. It's a skin effect due to the high frequency of the 5G fields. The higher the frequency, something that Nikola Tesla knew and taught about many, many years ago, the higher the frequency, the more the skin effect with the effect on the human body. So instead of penetrating into the inner parts of the organs and so on, it's more of a superficial skin effect with the higher frequencies. And that's why we can touch higher voltages at high frequencies and not not necessarily get electrocuted because of that skin effect, like a high voltage Tesla coil, for example. Or those tests where people have their hair sticking out from 100,000 volts of a voltage, but at the same time they're not electrocuted because it's a skin effect, superficial, only on the skin type of effect due to the high voltage and high frequencies.
So
Yes.
maybe if we have high frequencies, maybe they won't even go into the salt water. Do you think this could be possible?
Maybe they won't go into the what? Sorry, couldn't quite
If you
hear
use salt water in the cup, 1 cup on lives, and you use high frequencies, I don't know if I don't want to use frequencies. I wanted to work with DC, with the system.
That's interesting. Yeah, so something like a cup or a human body, certain things will get affected. Like in our skin, our skin's only so thick, and then we have these sacs of fluid underneath the skin that can get affected by radio waves. So what that is actually, the skin is our second largest organ of the body. It's not the largest organ of the body, as has been commonly misknown in the last 5 or 6 decades. Scientists a couple of years ago have determined there's a larger organ of the body. And I've talked about this before. It's not commonly known, and even most doctors, I bet probably 99.9% of doctors could not tell you what the largest organ of the body is, because they're not taught about it yet, which is the interstitial fluid, the fluid that's in between the organs, in between the cells, and in between all the parts of the body. And that fluid is the largest organ of the body. And it's the most important organ of the body also, because it's essentially both the sewer system and the supply system for the cells, which have that surrounding them. So if things get contaminated there, or even off a tiny little bit, a few hundredths of a pH in that interstitial fluid, completely changes the environment, makes it susceptible to various bugs and viruses and that kind of thing. And what have we been doing as humans over the past 2 or 3 decades is completely messing up that interstitial fluid through various ways: the food, the air, the water, and the radio waves, which all affect that interstitial fluid. So this is a really important kind of inner secret that is not really known, and people haven't really come to grips with in terms of the medical profession, the biological profession, and all of the professions haven't come face to face with this. There's only very few doctors who are Nobel Prize doctors and so on that know about this, and are teaching about it as being important. They're being silenced because the knowledge of this would radically change the way treatments are done, and would make certain things like vaccines and so on not relevant and not applicable in this case.
Rick, when I listened, you introduced this wisdom to me, and when I listened to what you told us about this fluid in the body, what I found is really interesting is, how does this fluid stay in the space gapping? I mean, usually fluids and water wants to go down to the deepest point in a container. But how does
yes, that's a
how
good
does the
question.
body do this? Was very intriguing for me because, for example, if you do, this is always a topic we have with capacitors, for example, or with how does the body do this? It's very interesting.
Well, it's a very, very relevant topic to capacitors, actually, and I'll show you why here in just a second here. I can find my entire thing, which has disappeared on my share thing. Or has it gone? Zoom, where did you go? Just a second here. I'll find it, sure. Okay, normally it's at the top, and oh, there we go. It's hiding behind one of my many boxes on my screen. Okay, let me get that lined up here. So we can see in this picture of the this shows that interstitial fluid, and we can see that underneath the mucous membranes, and you've got this collagen bundles that make up most of our flesh, let's say, and you've got what's called the fluid-filled space. So you have all these spaces that are fluid-filled. This is on a micro scale or even on a nano scale. Okay. So, but what it is these fluid-filled spaces are not isolated. They are separate units, the same as the cells in our body are separate units, but the cells in our body are not all isolated either. They're in contact with each other. They allow the flow of various materials through them and so on. Well, these fluid-filled spaces are like a highway of fluid because the fluid is able to move through the collagen or through the sacs. If you were, for example, if you were to cut yourself open, you won't find any water pouring out, right? There's no water inside the body.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah.
So it's in basically little Gans sacs. And what we know with Gans is that it's a nano material. And what we know about other materials is that they're generally bigger than the nanoscale. So nano passes right through most structures, and water is one of the most nano of materials. It'll pass through, or Gans material can pass through these structures. So in essence, this whole interstitial fluid becomes a highway of fluid, not just a bunch of individual little sacs. But in terms of what you're talking about on a capacitance level or on a resonating electromagnetic field level, these little sacs are perfect little resonators, because we were talking about it's not water, but it's actually salt water that would be in these sacs. And so because it's salt water, it's electrical, it's electrolytic, it's basically little capacitors or little antennas, you could say, for receiving and or transmitting. So you can see that these little spaces are not all exactly the same. You see a little one here, bigger ones, and so on. But they're all going to be within a range, a certain bandwidth of radio signals that these will resonate with, just sheerly because of their size. The same as the squirting water off the side of the ship forms an antenna these little guys form antennas too. And so for certain size signals, these will tend to resonate, and they'll tend to either heat up or they'll have other effects. They'll be activated or inactivated and whatnot. So in the case of 5G, there's scientific papers that claim that how you can use certain 5G frequencies to inactivate a virus. And so there's one line of reasoning that it's possible to use a network of 5G signals to actually inactivate a virus or create a virus-free zone. So in effect, that's what we're doing with our dome of peace and our spraying and all of that, is to create a virus-free zone. And if you think about it, you have a resonating spray, probably those droplets of that spray are roughly the same size as these fluid-filled spaces. And maybe the range of droplet sizes corresponds with the sizes of the fluids inside our body and resonates with that, and is, you know, might be the perfect size, or maybe we can create the perfect size, because droplets can be anywhere from nano sizes, tiny weeest droplets, right up to micro-sized, and then into more larger size. You could have a, you know, an ounce-sized droplet if you wanted to that kind of thing. So we can control our droplet sizes of the sprays, and it makes sense that a certain size droplet would also correspond with the certain sizes of the fluid-filled space inside of our body, and would make it you know, resonate in a positive way, let's say. It makes sense to me. It's kind of a bit of a stretch perhaps, but not really. So we know without a doubt that the GANs material, that you can feel the fields. And we can feel the fields because our feelers resonate with that the fields of the GANs material. It makes sense that, you know, our feelers, our feelings, or our at least in our skin, the various receptors in our skin and so on, which would be tied in with these fluid-filled spaces, might be able to sense those vibrations, sense those interactions, or those field interactions, perhaps through these, it might be actually through these fluid-filled spaces, through that interstitial fluid, that we actually do the feeling part of feeling the fields, I would propose.
Rick, this makes absolutely sense what you are talking about. And maybe it's a kind of what this fluid does is, or the antennas do, is the kind of translation and converting of the information from outside.
Sorry, you're fading a bit there again.
Oh, sorry, my microphone is, should be better now.
Yeah, could you say that again? Because I think it was important.
I think, yeah, this makes absolutely sense what you are talking about. And one picture that I got with this sensing the fields and your surrounding is, maybe this fluid and these antennas are also able to translate or transform the information from outside. So to bring it to a bandwidth your body can in some way work with. I'm quite sure this happens somehow. Huh? It's a really interesting topic and kind of magic fluid, huh?
Yeah, I truly believe that. I think it's very, very important. And what happens is if that fluid is not flowing, if it's not able to move that information through the body, then things get locked in, and that's when you get crystallization starts to form. That's when the calcium starts to lock in, because that's when the matter level starts to become more important than the flow. You know, it's like it's kind of like the flow of love. You can't just stop it, because it would become stagnant, and it would become no longer full of life. And so this fluid filled space it should be like a highway, and able to, you know, all the materials in that fluid needs to be able to flow through it and not become stagnant. It's like a septic system. You don't want your toilet to become backed up. That's the worst possible thing that can happen to any household, especially if you're isolated and locked down, is to have the toilet plugged up. You know, that if you want to see disease start flowing through a family or a community, that's when it happens, when you don't have proper toiletry situation. So in the same way, this is our septic system for all the cells of the body, actually, and it allows that flow. For example, if you're shedding a virus from the cells of your body, because that's where they come from, not from outside. Then if you're shedding a virus, you want to be able to get rid of it, not to carry it within your cells of the body as long as you can. You want that fluid filled space to carry those little buggers right out of your body, and then excrete them in your urine or through the skin, through sweat, or whatever other means that the fluids filled space gets cleansed, maybe through work of the kidneys, but also the liver and possibly other organs. So the more that fluid filled space can flow easily, it doesn't get all clogged up with heavy mucus. And you know, if you're feeling clogged up, that's usually when you know you're getting some sort of bug happening. And if you keep that fluid filled space flowing and not get locked into the heavy mucus and all of the slowing down of the system, where things start to basically get stopped up, and you know, you actually feel like your breathing is stopped up, your nose is stopped up, and your energy stopped up, and so on and so forth. But if you keep the fluid filled space going, then whatever you run into just gets passed through the fluid filled space, and it takes care of the problem, and you don't even feel the effects of it. So that's why doing things like fasting can be useful, because that liberates that fluid filled space, and you make less mucus, and you start to clean up. The body does its internal cleanup work and takes care of anything that ails you basically through the fasting process. And now scientists are actually starting to relate to that as well, and finding out that fasting has quite miraculous properties associated with it. So you can imagine combining the idea of fasting with simply drinking plasma water, which would be like fasting, but on steroids, where you actually have the benefits of the fields of the Gans water, at the same time as the body going into hyperdrive from fasting, and able to clean up and take care of virtually any condition that's going on that's out of balance inside the body. Mark mentions, looks like the ocean around millions or billions of islands, so to speak, within the body of the man. Yeah, that's right. And if the ocean is dirty, then all the trash washes up on those islands. That's a fact, mister. And it trashes up the islands and so on, so to speak. Same thing if the islands are dumping all their trash off into the ocean, then the ocean's full of trash and it's gonna go somewhere, or it has to be dealt with by the ocean to break it down and so on. So the ocean's been trying to do what? Break down plastics into, and now we have nano and microplastics into every drop of ocean water now has nanoplastics in it. And so the ocean deals with it. It breaks it down into smaller and smaller pieces, and eventually algae and other animals find a way to ingest it or to break it down further, and so on and so forth. Wave action, ocean, water, the hydroxide reaction with the wave action they're finding out is completely can purify virtually anything with the most potent OH ion available in the world, and so on and so forth. So yeah, any more questions or comments about that?
Yes, I want to share something about this, because the gentleman and you are talking about capacitors, and then you came to this. And this is what I meant in my capacitor drawings. If I take from the collagen bundles, how do you call the field space? They grow. And if you give to it, they shrink, because it's a lower plasma density in the VC field space. I can read it very good. What is that? Fluid field space. But it's the same as the cells, the same as the atoms. In between, we have everywhere this, like the picture in space 2 or 3 months ago. You shared the green nebula with the open gaps of space in between for our eyes, then, and that's the same. So if we
That's right.
if we can take from it or give to it, we can control differential. And that's only possible because everything is in the negative. And of course, for our point of view, there is a positive, but it's not. When you have negative, the environment starts feeding. When you have positive, you only lose.
Could you give an example of that or what you're thinking of, Arno?
If I use copper pipe and I have atoms of copper in between, I have the same. It doesn't matter which atom, even in the atom, in the column barrier, we have the same. The collagen bundles, that is what I always talk about. But in my way, I call it space in motion. And then you create clusters, and inside those clusters, we get collagen bundles, and we get the gaps. And because the gaps are lower, they want to retract. They create all their own base and their own sort of physicality. And when they start working hard, if you go to an environment when you can't release plasma, the collagen bundles start building up plasma. And then the cells will diffuse. We see it like infection. But if we go in an environment that we can release plasma, the collagen bundles will give, because the environment is lower than the collagen bundles. And then the fluid, the cells, I call it cells, you all know what I mean. That one is going to release plasma because the environment is lower. And then it's trying to retract more. And then you get heat. Then you get inflammation. That is what, when I touch my screen, my microamps are above 80 sometimes. That is why I don't try to use my phone anymore, and I will try to prepare my computer. But I want to stop with touching touchscreens, because every time I tell things and I use my touchscreen, I be hit in a certain way that the differential between my lymph and my nerves are infected. The differential is going to be bigger, and then I create more metastate between my bones, and then I'm back to square in my physical ill process.
You feel when you use a touch screen, you feel it in your body. You mean it affects
I
your?
feel it, and I have searched a lot of about it, and I've measured it, and the measurements are between 2 and between over 80 in the min and in the plus. So they create a lot of distortion in the desirable distortion that the physicality is. And I don't know if everybody has it. Maybe it's they aiming it because I'm how do you say it? Painful honest. Some people don't like you to be painful honest, and they start attacking you in different ways. Some people by the emotion, and some people use the technique.
Well, in terms of what we see here
in science, they are waking up that the touchscreen is the one who's more hurtful than 5G.
Interesting.
Because if I remember Mr. Keshe explains, you can use the phone to feed everyone. If I take 6 from you, you receive a carbon. If I take milliamps, if I take a 6 at 3 times 1 in a certain maybe package, you receive CH3. If you receive, you do the same with your plasma water. When you spray your body, the plasma water is in the emulsion of the Gans, and that emulsion will affect the calcium bundles, and those will affect the cells, the fluid-filled space. This is how I want to use my capacitors for differential controlled environments. I want to use the space in between to create the reverser, so I can when I want the opposite, so I reverse the motion with the coil, and with the coil in between, I fit them the other way around to the reactor, and when its plasma density is lowering, the reactor has to work harder to create the emotion to pull in plasma density to cool again. And for heating system, it's all the way around, but it have to be, we have to grow in that knowledge very good, because it's also diffusing if you don't work it properly. So it's not something that's tomorrow on the street. It is for the future, for us to learn with it, to work with it. But when we can do that, you can make everything for mankind for in-house to use. Yeah, you need the reverser. We never had the reverser. When we lower plasma density to create this, you want the opposite. You have to create what I showed 2 weeks ago. That one is going one side, and then I take from that going one side, and I connect it on the other side. What is in between that's going one side, then I give the opposite demand to the reactor to create a motion in the opposite direction of the environment, and then we enter the environmental controlled environment through as our physicality works.
I think I understand a lot of what you said.
I'm a little bit talking not good because I have pain, and it's going a little bit better now. But sometimes The pain was this time so hard that the pain was matter state last 2 days.
What pain are you going through? What do you mean?
This like you know a concrete scissor, and then you leave in between.
What? Sorry, I can't quite hear
Scissor,
you
while you
there.
got the iron from concrete.
Yeah, rebar.
Yeah, then my knee and my pulse are in between it. And when I use now plasma water, the plasma water is more or less dense. And then I feed it, so I create more. I need to find a way to raise the space density and the calories in my knee. Then the problem is over. But not till now, I do it playing with my timers, from giving freely, that my timer starts controlling the lymph again, and from the center of the heart, the soul of the heart, to control, to take from the brain again. So the brain is able, together with the timers, to create a desirable differential again. I have too much space gap. We see that as energy. Less is more energy. And my physicality has too much energy, and I cannot solve it now because the pain is too high to do it with my soul in one time. I do it with my soul, but in stages. And I still don't find a way to do it instantly. I cannot do it. Cancer is easier than this. I don't know why. But I will find
about
a way. It has taught me a lot.
Have you
It has
tried the
taught me so. Sorry?
Have you tried the magnetic pain pad?
Yes, I've tried it. I need a new. Actually, I need the reactors, but we have make an agreement. We don't use the reactors during Corona. If I use my reactors, I can do it in 1 day or 2 days. But without the reactors, so I don't create the fields of the reactors too. Otherwise, it's the same as using the reactors. Normally, I create dynamics around my knee, like planets. And then they start releasing plasma through the equinox and taking from. And then I can guide the plasma they release into my knee. And then that is how I normally lower the energy level of my knee while the inflaming stops. There's too much metastate now. And if I fill the gaps of the metastate with plasma, the metastate disappears. And then the pain stops. And then when the pain stops, the soul of the physicality in the brain stops pulling harder. And then I get a certain balance that it's being okay. I can do it in 3 days and sometimes in 3 hours, but this time it was a little bit harder, but I have typed a lot lately, shared a lot of information everywhere, and that touching the screen is for me not fine. Even when I hold my phone, I feel it. And I don't know if they do it on purpose or not. But the funny thing is, if I'm somewhere else and I don't know that person and I touch that phone, I don't have it in that much strings. It's there, but not that strong. And that is very funny. Then it looks like they can aim it to you. They don't need the medicine computer anymore from the apotheke to use it as an assessment grid to take out who they want to take out. They can use your phone by creating a differential more. You're inflamed, you get autoimmune illness, and you die. They have used it against us, I think. I don't know for sure, but I know when Mr. Keshe explains that we can feed people through the phone, maybe that's good because then we get more aware of it. We change maybe the screens that they can't give so much because normally they give 0.03 milliamp. And now they are even above 80 milliamp. And that is actually an how do you call it? An assessment on your physicality.
Yeah, that seems to be happening.
I hope, forget what I said about my screen. I hope that I helped you and the gentleman about, he was talking about the calorie bundles to use that in the capacitors. Beautiful. Stay on that, think about it. Be responsible. If you give too much plasma density, you diffuse. So your cells fall apart. If you take too much out of it, they inflame. They become hot. So be careful, be responsible, and I wish it helped you. Have a nice day.
Right on. Thank you, Arno.
You're welcome.
Okay. Ursula says we are our own capacitors of love for ourselves and create healthy life inside and outside of our bodies. Okay, nice.
Rick, hi, it's Dean here from the UK. Can I share a picture? I did a little experiment recently, just with the 1 cup of life, and it sort of tallies with what the conversation's just been going through, where I just decided to make a reactor, and a very simple reactor. You'll see it if I share a picture.
Okay. Yeah,
very,
sure.
very simple.
Please go ahead.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see there's a very, very simple reactor. That's the cup, 1 cup, 1 life. And the field interactions I got from that were almost immediate. As soon as the wind caught that child's windmill, the interaction started. Now that 1 cup, 1 life has actually been recently harvested. So there was hardly any GANs in the bottom. I did this on purpose because I wanted to see if there was a field flow, if any interactions at all. So I set this reactor up very, very quickly and very simply. You can see how simple it is. Now I'd like to sort of direct your attentions to the brown wire going to the copper. You can see a field interaction there. The wind's caught the sail. It's only going fairly slow, but there's a field interaction going on there already, and I felt it as soon as I connected with it, as you say, feeling the fields like I do. I felt it straight away. So very simple reactor. It's very similar to what Mr. Keshe is now selling and giving out. It's just a way of distributing the fields further. And talking about what Arno was just speaking about, you could use something as simple as this and direct it towards your knee with your intention, with your soul intention, and you could direct it to the environment or whatever your intentions are. So these interactions are directly related, as Ursula just pointed out, within you and outside of you. So this could be a beautiful thing and a very, very simple experiment many people could do with your cups, your 1 cup of life. It's, as I said, it's just a quick experiment that everybody can try.
That's quite interesting, Dean, actually. I like the idea. It seems like that windmill going around can be useful somewhere. You can put GANs on it, or you could make, it's almost like a little pump. Like that's what they used in the West in the early days of farming, and still do actually, is you have a windmill pump and used in to pump water, for example. You could actually have a little GANs waterfall coming out of your pump or something like that. I don't know, but it's interesting concept, and it's beautiful the way it just goes right into the coil there. It's almost made to hold it.
Yeah, it's funny how it's a silly thing. I've been meaning to try some different reactors for a little while, and I was going to do it with balls, and there's many ways to do it. You can do it with balls, and You can use the GANs, the plasma water in many, many different applications. But simple is good sometimes. And when something as simple as this, and as you just rightly pointed out, you scale it up, then imagine this in the ocean with GANs water and pumping this out through those big things that they try to generate electricity through and everything that, as we all know, are not quite what they make them out to be. So it's scalable. It's like everything is in micro and macro. And as I said, this could be used to help yourself or to help the planet. A very simple idea. It's always the simple ideas that seem to come through for, you know, to help humanity and yourselves, really. Another thing I noticed, Rick, when the windmill started spinning, definite field interactions, because I can't dig them out now, so I will try and get them for next time. But the windmill itself, there's that I've seen from the Keshe technology in the past, people who have made these reactors and had interactions going on, where you see this, it starts to blur. The windmill itself at the top, but there's other pictures I've got where it's not just the wind, there's actually a field interaction where the actual fields are blurring the matter state reality, and it's starting to gradually just sort of I don't know, disappear, but it's there's a definite interaction going on. And as I said, from a very simple experiment like this, most people can try this and see what happens. But I think with the right intentions, this could intensify the plasma field for everybody everywhere very quickly. So that was it. Thanks, Rick. That was just a very quick thing for everybody to see.
Nice, thank you. You can imagine a GANs ball on the middle of that rotating windmill part there. And that would sort of balance out the GANs on the bottom, perhaps. Could be an interesting relationship. Many combinations with that.
This was a very simple experiment. I mean, it didn't, I mean, the windmill itself moved around and stuff in the wind, and it would need securing properly. Obviously, that it's into the GANs at the bottom, and that would all need sorting out. But it's just a very simple experiment, as I said. But it definitely did show, and I did feel field interactions almost immediately. As soon as the wind picked up through those sails, you could feel it. I could feel it myself, and with the right intention, I could send that on the wind. Those intentions and that GANs out on the wind, all across. Very good.
Essentially, you've made the static reactor into a dynamic one, because now even that straw coming down that is going to be vibrating in the wind and causing the coil to vibrate in the center there. And it's actually going to be stirring up the GANs on the bottom a bit and causing a much more dynamic situation in that cup. And I would bet that it would produce double the amount of GANs just from that agitation that keeps all the surfaces sort of clean and keeps them ready to do their action.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think your idea with the GANs ball would be useful as well, because you need to create a flow even when there's no wind. So you would need another way to create flow, and you can do that by using different field strength within these GANs balls. You know, fill them up with different amounts of plasma water, and change the ratio, get a gradient going, and you can keep the flow going when the wind, the physicality wind, is not there. So it's much for people to experiment with, which is, you know, to do with this reactor group, which is a beautiful thing.
Now let me ask you this: the little spiral that we see on the disc of the rotating part, was that standard? Did it come that way, or did you put the disc on there?
No, that was as I purchased this it was just happened to be there in the shop, and it's actually it's a plasma right in the middle.
Just happened to be there, yeah.
Just happened to be there, yeah.
And stars all over the rotating galaxy that you have there as well.
Yeah,
very nice, Mr. Keshe. I'm sure would approve. It's just like his drawings. So
as we know, Rick, when you think of certain things, the universe can put things in front of you. It's just for you to realize what's there.
It's true, and if people focus on any kind of reactor that they can imagine, all they have to do is start to really focus on it and concentrate their attention, and you will go out into the environment and find parts that you need for this reactor. It will show up. We've had so many different designs for especially spherical reactors that we were heavily involved in years ago, and well, still are. But and then when I went into a dollar store or a thrift store, I'd be looking for spheres, and they would just show up all over, glass spheres and copper spheres and brass spheres and so on and so forth. And it's like it's a double-edged sword in a way, because it's like Mr. Keshe says, there's as many types of reactors as there are stars in the universe. And so you start to figure and ponder that for a bit. And there's, you know, if you can think of 10 different reactors, well, once you start actually building or getting in and making some of them, each one of those might lead to 10 other ideas for reactors, and then you start getting into one of those and it could lead to 10 other ideas, and all of a sudden you've got well, literally over the last decade or so for myself, I have literally hundreds of designs that I personally considered or run into in my mind, or bouncing off ideas with Guy or others, you know, just on different designs. And that's easy to do. It's easy to come up with a list of 100 top reactor designs. Each of us could do that if we so wished. But that's the double-edged sword, like I mentioned, is there's so many types of reactors that you start pondering all the different types and all the different ways, it would essentially drive you insane, because you would have too much information. And it's way better to be able to focus on a few of the ones that you have a passion for. And then if you pursue that, you'll find the universe readily accommodates you and will provide you with the stuff you need in order to carry on that experiment and keep basically pushing the knowledge forward. So.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. That's very beautiful. Yeah, and it's strange how when you start interacting with these reactors, when you actually, as you just rightly pointed out, when you actually start when you focus your intention, things start to materialize for you, and a path is laid out for you. Whether you walk that path or not is entirely up to you. But it is given to you, and it's very beautiful. And if you have beautiful intentions, and you decide to share and help, you will find that you will manifest many doors that will open up for you to be able to give more, and open up to more people, and open up to more situations. Very simple things that when you actually start working with it, and you start to understand the sheer essence of what it really is, it is the most astonishing thing. It's universal flow.
Well, it's true, and it's my hope and wish that that gets picked up more on a call it more professional basis, or from universities, and some young kids make their thesis on some of the what if we had 1,000 young kids all do their thesis on their reactors, the reactor the highest possible conception of a reactor, one of those stars of the universe of a reactor. And out of those 1,000 kids, I bet 100 would be viable reactors that would actually work. And out of those 100, there's probably 10 that would work really, really well. And out of those 10, maybe a few that would change the entire course of human history. So I think that it would be, you know, something like that is entirely possible. And in fact is happening now. There's lots of young people that get inspired by the work of the Keshe Foundation and other work that's going on at the same time, especially on the nanoscale and nanotechnology, nanomaterials, on the biological scales. They're finding out more and more information as well. So there's and now with this scientific paper happening at the university in Iran, that's going to make a huge difference as well. And we really look forward to that, hopefully coming out on Thursday, but it's been delayed a couple of times due to various influences. But Mr. Keshe has talked about it as over a 90-page paper, which is a lot of material that they're trying to cover. They're trying to cover basically all the aspects of the technology and the protocols for various ailments and so on and so forth. And it keeps getting added to, and it sounds like it's going to be pretty much the same size as the Keshe, the original Keshe patent application, which was over, I think it was around 106 or 108 pages last time I counted. And it's quite overwhelming if you were to think of it that way, because it's probably the longest patent application ever. But it does have recurring themes in it and a basic knowledge that's imparted through those pages. And I highly recommend to anybody that wants to know about the technical side of reactors, and especially the first gaseous reactors that were conceived by Mr. Keshe and actually developed. It's quite fascinating, and it's has a true logic to it, and relationship with the forces and processes that go on in the universe. The way the universe works is how the reactor works. So if you understand the actual processes that go on in most of the universe, not on planet Earth, because Earth is a lot of matter level stuff here, and even the ordinary scientists will tell you that 98 or 99% of the universe is composed of plasma, what they call plasma, which is not the ordinary matter level. It's a whole different form of matter, but it's on a level that's where things can easily transmute and easily change from one form to another. By the time it gets to Earth, things are much more solid, harder to work with.
I think on this planet, Rick, matter state, obviously with all the souls that are here, and it's a matter state condition, and with the knowledge and the transition that we're going through now, things are about to manifest and change. We all know that the foundation is involved and influencing beautiful things with universal knowledge, and bringing forth the universal community to be present on this planet. Many of them are here already, I'm sure. unbeknown to many people, but it's a very beautiful thing, and we are all universal beings. We're coming to understand our true essence of what we really are, and things are, you know, in the matter state on this beautiful planet. Things are manifesting now in a most beautiful way, and I think there are going to be some tough times. There always are tough times, but it's also in a moment everything will change, and it will be the most joyous, wonderful thing. And we need to start concentrate on the many positives, not all the negatives all the time. We need to start loading up that base. We need positives in all situations to move forward.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the Keshe teaching, I think. I mean, Mr. Keshe brings up a lot of the negatives in a way, or the things that hold us back as humans on this planet, and all the matter level things we get involved with, and so on and so forth. But the Keshe Foundation always has solutions. That's the great thing about the plasma technology, that it's got solutions for virtually every problem we can come up with. And in that way, it's kind of well, it's you got to approach it with humility in a way that wow, this, you know, like I don't know of any dis-ease of the humans that could not be, if not alleviated, at least helped by the use of the GANS technology. And it's really basic, really simple, but yet really effective. And it works on emotional levels, it works on physical levels, it works on soul level, it works on all these levels simultaneously. So that's one of the beauties of it. And you know, it makes us realize that we have a lot more available to us in a way, just through simple things, than we do through all the complexity and multi-trillion dollars that have been put into the health industry, and in industry indeed it is, and into all the products and all the devices and everything else, and still have marginal income outcomes for good health on in many ways. You look at the US, who spends more per capita probably of any other country of the world in their health system, and they're having one of the worst outcomes of the world in terms of battling the coronavirus. So what's wrong with that picture? So money does not necessarily buy health, you could say. And in fact, it may go the opposite in that realm. It might be impossible to just keep throwing money at the problem of health in order to create a solution with it. It might be more like what Arno says, that is the absence, it's the voidness, it's the in-between, it's the gaps that are important. So maybe instead of piling more money onto a health problem, or trying to create a solution with more money, it's a matter of creating a solution with the absence of trying to create solutions. Because sometimes the act of creating things ends up causing more havoc than not. There's lots of tests for cancer, for example, that actually create more cancer than what the the tests actually or than what the cancer will actually produce if it's not provoked, and so on and so forth. Like one of the ways they show cancer in a X-ray is to inject your body with a sugar solution, which aggravates the cancer and causes it to inflame, and then it shows up better in the x-ray. Well, holy cow, that seems counterproductive. So, you know, there's lots of examples of that kind of thing where fasting is a great example, where the absence of more food and more nutrition and more actually creates the condition that allows the release of the body of those toxins and of that congested and bound up condition, especially in a calcification example that Mr. Keshe likes to bring up, like calcification of organs and so on. It's one of the things that happens with fasting is a release of some of that excess calcium.
It's that Rick, it's that cycle, isn't it? There's a cycle of the environment versus when that environment's balanced, and your nutrition, what you ingest and what you ingest, not just from physically ingest, but emotionally ingest as well. When it's balanced, everything's beautiful in harmony, and you resonate frequencies of love and all sorts of other things, and you're a balanced individual, and that resonates out to others around you, and also situations, and it just goes around in a big cycle. When it, as you said, when it gets blocked, and it goes stagnant and things start to build up, and then it goes into a position that's not right, not correct, and it's being able to release all these emotions that are big interactions with our reactor, which is our Gans body, which we are a reactor, and we react to our environment. So everything we've spoken about today with Arno, with the phones, obviously they're reacting with us, with the Gans within us. Everything around us, our environment, the water, the atmosphere, everything. It's an interaction, and they all cause different feelings, emotions that then trigger other responses, and then make us react in different ways. Not always positive, and not always the way we would like to react, but we all learn from it, and then try to rebalance ourselves and bring back purity of soul back to your very essence. And when you do that, you start to resonate truthfully again, and the environment changes, and then you start opening those doors up that that show the correct path again, and then you can start walking the path, and beautiful things start to happen again. You see amazing things. Instead of just seeing all the negatives, you start seeing the positives again.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Magnetical and gravitational, it changes, it flips, and it's very easy to go from one to the other, and you need to understand your environment and yourself to understand how it works.
That's a good point. It's a flip. It's almost like a polarity change, you could say. So in effect, that's what it is. And the idea being that, in effect, is the words that we are either under the effects of the environment, so that we end up reacting to various stimuluses that happen, and there's lots of them in our environments wherever we are, or we can, and in that situation, then we're susceptible to the various emotional changes and mood swings and so on, according to our likes and dislikes, essentially. Oh, it's too cold right now. Oh, it makes me angry. Oh, it's too hot right now. Oh, that makes me angry. Oh, it's just right. Well, geez, I'd rather have it warmer. I'd rather have it cold. All these different things that sort of get us upset or get us stimulated or uptight or whatever different emotional responses. Or we can decide that we are going to emit that mood, that emotion, or or that force. It's more of a force than an emotion of unconditional love, of just giving. And whatever situation we come into, instead of reacting to it like we might normally do, we are able to use that energy to actually increase our presence in the presence, increase the presence of our presence in the present, and actually refocus our attention with our attention to our original intention, which is to be a giver, not a reactor as such. Well, a reactor in one sense, but not a reactive reactor. A reactor that's consciously driven, and a reactor that has conscious choices put into it, not just reacting to the hodgepodge of what might get thrown into it at any particular time. In other words, consciously controlling our internal environment.
Yeah, Rick, that resonates very much, because we talk about universes and we talk about galaxies. We have that within inside ourselves, in every cell in our body, in our brain, the secrets in the brain, as Mr. Keshe says. And it's a galaxy. We know we're our soul's surrounded by galaxy. It is a galaxy. And then when you extend that galaxy out, that universe out to the next universe, that it's certain people within the foundation, where I've had private teachers have spoken about an egg within an egg within an egg. It changes. The environment's very, very important. And when people start to understand their own beauty within themselves, they start to become balanced. And with this GANS technology, we know this helps to do this. It balances in a matter state way, but in a plasmatic state as well. And when you start interacting with this, you have many, many beautiful experiences. I did on my path. And yes, sometimes it teaches you hard lessons, because you need to face certain lessons that are on your path that you're walking, that you need to understand within yourself. And then other times it will open up, the doors open up again, and then you start having different interactions that benefit yourself and everybody else, when you start loving and sharing that wisdom and that knowledge, which is exactly what this platform and many other Keshe platforms do. It's that dome of peace. It's within yourself, and when that dome of peace is then spread from your universe out to someone else's universe, and those universes connect up, and it grows, and the dome starts spreading across this planet. This is the change. This is the beautiful thing, the peace that I've always wished for on this planet. Is that beautiful peace. Thanks, Rick. I'll give somebody else a chance now.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Good. Really like the background screen here for today's workshop. Very nice. I think Stanley or somebody that he's connected with made it. I think it's one of the best, probably the best I've seen for our background pictures.
I noticed right away.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think at first. It was like, oh, it's really purpley. And I, wow, I like it. So here you go. Thank you to Stanley. Okay, what else do we have for show and tell here today? Anybody who would like to have something to say? Well, I think we're coming to that time. Just double check on our questions in YouTube. Pegita asks, what do you think about schools and COVID? Is it safe for children? I really like to know Mr. Keshe's opinion. Thanks. Well, we can save that question for Mr. Keshe, I would say. And that's what I will do. Let's see here. Put it on the list. And which reminds me, is there anybody else that has any questions they would like to present either themselves or have presented to Mr. Keshe for the next workshop? Okay, sounds pretty quiet out there. Must be time to end things. I know I'm getting a little quieter as well. It's getting to be the wee hours of the morning here. But I quite enjoyed today's workshop. Thanks for all the interaction from everyone. It's really great to have a picture, a video, just some sort of something for our eyes to rest on as a topic and subject to focus on. And that way we have something to form around a question or concept. And that in a way becomes our vehicle that takes us somewhere. So if we can formulate our questions exactly, that is the vehicle that can take us to an exact destination. So something to consider in our interactions here, and we have enough knowledge between us all that the more detailed the question, the more penetrating and true the question, then the closer we're going to get to that magical space where things are correct and we feel correct. Correct is not correct word, perhaps. We feel emotions that are part of our soul-based and essence-based emotions, and you know, we get closer to the heart of the matter. Okay, I don't see anything else outstanding right now, so I'm going to end things for today's workshop. Thanks everybody for attending the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group for Wednesday, July 1st, 2020. And I invite everyone to attend the Knowledge Seekers Workshop coming up tomorrow, July 2nd at 9 a.m. Central European Time.
Sorry for disturbing you, but there is a guy in the Telegram group, the Keshe World family, who is saying he has corona and he wants desperately help.
Okay, well, he can get help through that group because that's really the best way to do it. That's where Mr. Keshe actually gives help to people on a direct level, and that's what the
In which group?
which group was he in? You said was the.
He's in the One World Family group.
Okay, well, depending which country he's from.
He says he's living in England. I have corona, please help me. But his name is Mitra Divalsalar, so I guess he's not English. But Mitra Divs.
Well, if he's in England, there is an English group if he speaks English, and if he's not English, then you'd have to find the other groups. There's, you know, like Iranian group. There's, I think, a Spanish group and Portuguese group and so on. But there is an English Telegram group that he should be directed to, and then they can get personal instruction as to
how do I direct him to that group then?
Well, that's a good idea. I don't think I have the link to the English group.
Does Dean has it maybe?
Yeah, I think
I can try and look it up for you if you hang on 2 secs. I'll see if I can find it.
Dean, if you are in the Keshe One World family on Telegram, you can just find this guy on the mess and help him and you know, give him what he needs, the information he needs, because I don't know how to supply him with the information he needs.
Thank you very much. I will do. I will contact him.
He posted a post 1340. No, that's my time. Yeah, whatever. It's a recent post. You just go back a bit. It says, "Hi, I need help. I live in England. I have a corona. Please help me." That's all it says.
Yeah, wonderful. I will get in contact as soon as this meeting ends. I will make it a priority to go and help this person.
Thanks, Dean.
Okay,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, he says, "Hi, I need help. I live in England. I have corona. Please help me." All right, good. You'll find that easily in the One World Family group, and thank you for sorting it out, Dean. That's the way it works here. Okay, and thank you for bringing that up as well, because that's also the way it works here. We bring it up, we find a solution, and we deliver. It's not really the what do you call it, the spectrum of this group to give all the exact protocols that might be important to somebody in that situation. If it's a life-threatening situation, I like to get Mr. Keshe involved as much as possible, rather than otherwise we're just referring him to the protocols in the Wikipedia, and you know, that's great, but they can look that up themselves. They can get involved with that themselves. They don't need us to repeat that really, but there might be some particularities that have to be sorted out, or they may need help in the Ganses and in supplying the Gans, or supplying a 1 cup device, and so on and so forth. And all that can be done through the groups. That's exactly what they're set up for, and that's what they need to do. It's their realm. So I defer to those Telegram groups. For there's the Keshe Canadian Corona team, the Keshe American Corona team, there's the English, and there's also a general Keshe English discussion group that's been set up recently, and Keshe 1 Cup 1 Life group that was the original group set up, and so on. So there are ways you can find your group through that, through various contacts with the Keshe Foundation, or if you need to, through the info at keshe.foundation, which should be able to supply that kind of information. Okay, anything else before we phase out here?
Yeah, if I can just make a quick comment on that the Telegram groups for anybody out there who's listening. Please contact them. Please go to the Keshe website or and find this information, because anybody, if you have relatives, you have friends or yourself that have got the corona, we all know what it can do, and there is help there, and there's ways to actually, I don't want to say cure, but to help the corona. With the One Cup, One Life, we can change many lives, and we can help the situation and help you and help yourselves and your families. Very important. The technology is there. It's there. It's been there, and it's there for you. Please use it.
Now, I wonder if we do have one link or one place, one page that has all the Telegram links on it. Is there a Keshe Foundation link that has all the pages, or some other place for all the, maybe in the KF Wikipedia? Does anybody know? That would be a handy thing to have in the KF Wikipedia.
There is a direct page, Rick, to the KF Wikipedia. Yeah, that would be a good one too. I'm sure Mark's got it on. Mark would have it, and he could put that forward now if he's available.
I don't have it.
Let's have a look and see if it's in the KF Wikipedia here. I'm not seeing one offhand, so if someone does have that, please let us know. And if you find out between now and tomorrow, then that would be good to publish in the Knowledge Seekers Workshop as well. And if we don't have that spot, then we'll have to make a recommendation that it gets put somewhere, because that'd be a great link for people to have, so that whatever country or language you find yourself in, then you'd be able to get in contact in an emergency situation with coronavirus or other condition. Okay, I think that's all we can do with that for now. As Mark mentions, we are not doctors, we are technology providers. Interesting, yes. We are guides. Okay, I think that's it for today's Keshe Plasma Reactor Group. Thanks everyone for attending, and see you next time around. It's been a great workshop. Really appreciate all the input, and we'll take things to another level next time around. Okay, bye for now in their live stream.